Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications in the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and your Words of Wisdom podcast, joined today by...
I'm Paige Guynn, owner and director of DanceTech.
Welcome, Paige. Second time for DanceTech.
Yes.
So third time overall, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting comfortable.
Remembering. Both times before I asked you what you thought success was or what success meant to you. The first time we really focused on you and DanceTech. The second time we focused on that and Blacksburg Ballet. What do you think failure means to you? And if you're able to focus that in on the world of DanceTech.
Oh my gosh, you didn't prep me for this question.
I didn't prep you for this one.
I mean, the simplest answer would be to make children hate dance.
Fair. How do you think that you strive to not do that? Again, we talked last time about dance moms and all of those things that really have tarnished what you are trying to do. But in the real sense of it, how do you go from teaching someone that is brand new, doing this the first time, to get over that hump of, I have to learn to get better? Like, I'm not just going to be good at the thing.
Oh my gosh.
So how do you set them up to not be failures?
We really try to celebrate like smaller milestones along the way. So instead of creating just this one very far off into the distance goal, actual manageable goals that you can reach in a shorter amount of time. And then the other thing that we focus on so much as a studio within our staff is celebrating effort over results. Because I think everyone has been in a situation where you've had a bad win where you just dropped the ball and you still happened to come out ahead. But you've also had that moment where you did your absolute personal best and you're so proud of yourself until whatever the results come in and you're like, what the heck? How did I not end up on top? So we talk a lot about that with our kids at every age, not just high schoolers, starting from I don't know, the lower elementary school. Of the focus is on how you feel about how you did and the effort that you put into it. Did you try your best? Did you practice at home? Did you enjoy yourself? If so, it's a success.
Right. And then taking away, especially I think when you've done all of those things and you come away from it going, I feel the best I've ever get, and then you don't win. How do you then go and say, all right, here's where you can improve? Because I know... Well, I don't know that much about dance. I'll be frank. Every dance has looked like a dance to me. And so it's hard for me to go, this is a better dance or a worse dance. Obviously, the judges that are doing things at that, they have their own criteria. How do you manage those expectations as well? Because I mean, I can think back to when I was doing theater and I would get one set of notes from one director and completely opposing from a different director. And I was subjective. Like, it's subjective. How do you take that subjectiveness, but also still allow them to grow from it?
So I think that's probably the most challenging or different part, especially for parents to understand when they come from a world where, I mean, most of our parents aren't from theater or dance. They've done more traditional sports where there is a scoring system that is understandable. You know, like you make a goal, you get your point. It's very obvious. Right. Or even, I always tell the kids, like gymnastics or figure skating, it's like you get points for skills. If you fall over, you lose points. Dance is not like that at all. It's 100% the audience or the judge's opinions on that day. So it can be really tricky to figure out how to move forward from that. I guess in two different perspectives, totally not competition, just general performance. As we're finding levels of progression, it's like, okay, if we last time we were on stage managed to do a single pirouette, so one turn, and we showed that we were nervous. How about next time, let's try to do a double maybe. It may or may not happen, but could you also do it without showing your on your face? And just that little switch of, can you smile through it instead of showing that you're scared, is a huge accomplishment.
And when you're looking at that and you're giving those notes, do you have a specific approach that you're thinking about in your own? Because I think about it when we just got back from Pennsylvania filming stuff for that school. And the notes that I would give to the director, who is a professional, have been doing this for 15 plus years, are much different than I'm giving to a college student. I'm having to put it through a different filter. So how do you manage that for yourself?
Oh, I think I just have like not even dual personalities. I have like quad personalities based on which age group I'm working with and also which individual student. So I teach, I guess my biggest class, I have 56 dancers in one routine altogether. Our focus in that is being conscious of the people around us and having energy. That's pretty much it. You know, we can't get into the nitty gritty in that. It's hyping them up. So I am like, crazy and jumping. I'm sure you could never imagine that.
Oh my God,
what? And the dancers are from 5 through 18. So there's teamwork, there's lifts, there, like the energy is so different. But then I also get to work one-on-one with students in a huge range of ages. So I'll talk about this year, for instance. I have 2 dancers that it's their first solo they've ever done. So the first time they're ever going on stage by themselves, like that can be really terrifying. So we talk so much about like, here's what you can control. You can do your best. You can have a backup plan if you get nervous and forget. You have a plan for if you fall over, just turn it into a roll and reach your arm and smile and pretend like that was supposed to happen. But it's all about hyping them up and helping them feel prepared. Now, versus I work with some like high school seniors that they are becoming artists in their own right. So they don't need me to tell them, if you forget your dance, come up with something else to do.
Right.
They've got that down. My job in that situation is to help them tap into their own creativity and think of it in a different way. So I'll present like, okay, you've been doing this whole routine kind of sad and depressed. What if we try adding some hopeful moments to it? How is that going to tap into something else and open up your mind to doing it differently?
I 100% love that, because I mean that I feel like, going back to what I was talking about, a lot of the times it would be talking to the director and being like, they're not looking interested enough, they're not doing this, and then he would turn and go, have you thought about this? And pose it more as a question so that they can come to their own conclusions, because look, our conclusions may not always be the same. When you're going into some of that, how much of what you're doing, like you said, you're preparing them and having them set up for, I want you to feel good about what you've done. How much of that do you also say and look at tuning out the audience, like tuning those pieces? Because granted, I think for the majority of dance pieces, it's not like you've got people being like, whoa, way to go to do that. But
Have you ever been to a dance competition?
I wasn't thinking about the competition. I'm thinking about Nutcracker, honestly.
The Nutcrackers, where we work together. Yeah.
But no, so I guess, how do you make sure that how do you train them to tune that out? Because I feel like, look, as a comedian, if you don't hear the laughter, you know you're doing bad and you have to change. With dance, it's not necessarily you can fully make a change. You have to commit to what you've already kind of prepped. And how do you keep them from going into their own heads, I guess?
Oh, that's interesting. Because I don't think I've ever said to tune out the audience or not pay attention to them.
See, personal stuff.
Yeah. Most of them naturally like try not to make eye contact, and it's just that's not their first goal, is like, oh, I'm going to look out and stare at my 5th grade teacher staring back at me, is not what they want to be doing. In fact, most students, when we kind of share and showcase in the studio for their peers, they say that's way more terrifying than actually being on a stage in front of 2,000 people, because you can actually see what's happening.
Right.
And I think we've trained them to understand, because they'll say very often, they're like, well, my friends in class actually know what it's supposed to be. They're like, the real audience has no idea.
Right.
So they just have that perspective of, we talk all the time. It's like, they're looking up here. Your feet could be completely wrong. They have no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of where I was coming at from it, because if something goes wrong, 99.9% of that audience is never going to know, as long as you stick with it.
Just pretend it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people that have, I had a professor skipped 7 pages of a death of a salesman, skipped over 7 pages. Everyone on the tech side, it was like stand by everything. We don't know what's going on. He was able to make his way back. Audience never had any idea. Versus my brother was in a stage play of the Scottish play. That's Macbeth. I'm superstitious theater. He got to a line, messed it up, and went blah, 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 and started over.
And then everyone was like,
everyone knows. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I always look at and think of just like, I know for theater and those performances, it's just go, you don't know. But on the dance side, I feel like that's a little bit more tricky at some points, just because you've got somewhere to be. You've got a position to be in. Even dance and theater, where it's like, this is a musical number. If you're not at that part of the stage at that point, something may be moving where you are currently at. So
other than safety purposes, which I mean, that's clearly extremely important, I still don't think the audience would know.
Right. Yeah.
I think if you just commit to it and like act, I mean, have you seen those videos of, I don't know which company it is, but it's like it seems very formal ballet, but it turns into hilarious because they're like doing Swan Lake and one person is going the exact opposite of everyone else the whole time. Seen, yeah. And it's like on purpose, supposed to be kind of like, whoa, what's happening here? So I would venture to say that most people, unless you make a face like, oh dear God, I just made the biggest mistake in the whole world, they're going to have no idea still. So
we've been talking for a while. For those who haven't listened to your previous episodes, you really explain what DanceTech is.
Sure. So we're a dance studio with classes from ages 3, and I always say 83. That doesn't mean if you're older, you couldn't come. Of course, everyone is welcome.
So maybe you have to change it to 3 to 93, 3 to 103.
Yes, we'll just keep going up.
Yeah. Okay.
This is our 26th year of dance, which I think is pretty dang cool. The studio actually started in the basement of Rainbow Riders, if anybody is familiar with that. And then we moved into our space on North Main Street about 20 years ago. Used to be Fitness Connection. So I get people coming in all the time talking about how their mom used to do the treadmill in certain spots in the studio. They can remember it. It's so funny.
It makes me wonder. I hope you don't have anybody coming in still thinking that's what it is.
Well, we have workout classes, so there you go.
You could still do things. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I just think about how many people still think the Chamber's at its old location and those things that you get in your head. But anyway, sorry.
We probably should be better at our Google listings or something. Yeah. Hey. Okay. So we have a huge range of styles: ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, lyrical. We have a really fun tricks and acro program that focuses more on things that you would see like in a floor routine versus the apparatus in gymnastics, because the whole goal there is to practice skills that you could do in the middle of a dance routine. Our adult program, we have a yoga bar class, hip hop dance fitness. We have a class called Intermediate Advanced Series, and that is for the people that used to be more competitive or experienced dancers that want to get back into it, as opposed to our other adult classes, which are like, it could be your first day dancing in your whole life and you would feel comfortable and it would be fine. Oh my goodness. What else? We perform the Nutcracker through the Blacksburg Ballet. We have a performing arts company, if people choose to participate that much, that performs all over the place. We're actually dancing at Radford tonight at the basketball game. Then we have a competition next weekend. And our big things we did with that this year, we danced at the halftime of the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando, which was so fun. For most of the kids, it was their first time doing anything like that. So that was just really enjoyable to watch them.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl is definitely one that's built around more fun.
Oh, it was a blast.
I mean, I don't watch all of the bowl games, but I feel like when I've seen the things where they're like putting the Pop-Tarts in a toaster, which is kind of dark, it's a lot more fun to do those things than the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl,
Oh, I went to that too, but that's a separate story. No, we had so much fun. I mean, yeah, those little Pop-Tarts are like running all around the place the whole time. They got to like stand in the tunnel next to the dance team from Miami, who they are like goddesses to my kids because, you know, they're glamorous and tan and they had their sparkly outfits on and their coach was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And all of our kids were like, wow, it was just so cute. And they got to dance in a parade at Universal while we were there. And almost everyone had little brothers that came on the trip too. So I think that they thought it was the best dance trip they've ever been on. Because like, as opposed to some of the other
Orlando?
ones. Yeah. So we do things like that for people that choose to. That's not like a set expectation. Like, oh, it's your first class. Surprise. We're going on a massive trip to Orlando. We've had some great memories for the people that choose to. We do a spring recital, like most studios. That's kind of the culmination of a year of hard work. I think that's the other interesting part for family members that aren't from a theater or dance world. Most sports, you actually get to play games fairly often.
Right.
But that is not the case in this. We're working almost all year towards this final goal. So it's pretty cool how special it is. And we like really look forward to it all year. I don't know. We just got a lot of stuff going on.
That's great. And I mean, a lot of stuff for a lot of people. So that's awesome. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit about leadership and cultivating leadership. I also want to kind of dispel some of not rumors, but like dispel some preconceived notions of myself. And I'm sure many listeners about the cost of dance.
Okay.
And so, yeah, looking forward to hearing that from our 2024 Business Leader of the Year. DanceTech is in its 26th season of dance education in the NRV. Their facility is equipped with 4 dance studios, 2 large dressing rooms, a homework haven, a snack area, lobby space, and more. Their studios feature Dance Marley, Springwood floors, and host over 70 classes weekly. DanceTech is more than just great dancing. They're a more than just great dancing affiliated dance studio. More Than Just Great Dancing is a licensed affiliation of dance studios that subscribe to a higher standard of dance instruction and management principles. With a wide range of classes, from the age of 3 all the way to 83 and beyond, there's something available for you. DanceTech is committed to dance education excellence. With DanceTech instructors boasting degrees in dance performance, education, human nutrition, food and exercise, human development, and so much more. To learn more about DanceTech, go to dance-tech.com. That is dance-tech.com. Back to the episode. All right, we are back. I want to quickly give a shout out to Grand Home Furnishings for providing the furniture that makes us look nicer. These chairs are very comfortable. You can't see it. There's a nice little rug down here. So first, foremost, I want to talk about how you're building leadership through DanceTech, not just with your dancers, but your employees and things like that as well. And first, let's talk about the employee side of things. So where do the majority of your employees come from, and what is the breadth of what happens at a dance studio? Because I think it's easy for people to go, oh, someone's dancing and teaching dance, but there's a lot more that has to go into it.
Sure. Actually, I'm going to teach this to the whole Shawsville Middle School tomorrow when I'm doing
good practice.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever, investigating careers or something like that, I think the class is called. I actually have the opposite problem of most businesses around here, which I have people knocking on my door wanting to work for me very often. So I feel very fortunate that that is the case. It's just a matter of finding the right fit for our studio culture. But the cool thing is, most of my employees are college students, so they're coming in from all these different areas and bringing their knowledge and expertise. So within our staff of, I think we have like mid-20s amount of teachers right now, you know, it's not just, a bunch of people that grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have some of those very long-lasting people on my staff. I have actually a couple that danced at the studio before I even came to Blacksburg. So they've been around for longer than I have. And I love the combination of that foundation, of the longevity of those people and knowing our history and tradition with the new ideas coming in. So we kind of have it broken down into, I wouldn't say 2 tiers, but we do have some older, more established faculty that have been here a long time that serve as mentors to our newer teachers that come in. If you think about it, an 18-year-old freshman could potentially be teaching an 18-year-old high school student. Could really be a huge challenge. So the way that we try to kind of mitigate those problems is our younger teachers generally teach the younger classes and then grow in their confidence and classroom management skills and kind of earn the opportunity to work with the older students. Because I remember the same thing when I first started working there. I was like, why am I not teaching that class? And then I realized that some of the students were actually older than me.
Right.
So how am I ever how are they going to have confidence in me, and how will I have confidence in myself that I can be a leader in that classroom? Right.
Not to say that like it's not something that you can, because I think there's a lot that we can learn from people that are younger than us, no problem. But I also, I mean, I think back to my own experience. I was assistant manager of a box office one summer, and I had a series of interns. And some of the interns were older than I was. And I had a crisis of confidence in that. Why am I the one that is able to, like, why should they listen to me? And then it's me thinking, are they thinking why they should listen to me?
And then it's just a spiral.
Yeah, it's a spiral.
Yes. So we try not to put ourselves in that predicament. And this is actually the first year we've implemented monthly staff meetings so we can have more regular check-ins. Because if you think about it, we have classes happening 5-6 days a week. Some people, because their schedules are so busy, only come in on Tuesday nights.
Right.
So how else would we have these opportunities for teachers to collaborate and get together and make sure we're all on the same page and working towards the same goals? So I love that part about having a huge staff and a wide range of experiences. Because people always have great ideas and it's just a matter of implementing them. So things that we do other than just teach dance, I'll use our upcoming spring recital as an example. So starting at the beginning of the year, actually in August is when our dance year starts, I already had chosen what the theme of our recital was going to be because we kind of build everything off of that. So that rehearsal that I teach with 56 kiddos is like a hospital doctor theme. So that's the grand finale of our spring recital. So the theme of the recital is when I grow up. So I take it to the teachers. Okay, we've got a theme for this recital. Now their responsibility is to come up with songs that fit within that, come up with costumes that go with the song, with the theme, that also fit in the budget, then start to come up with choreography. And we haven't even gotten to that part yet. We're only so far in the planning process. So we'll get to that eventually. Actually, I think at the end of February. So that's just for the teachers to think about. On the back end, my admin team were, first of all, making sure everyone knows the date and time that we had to reserve in September, because there are not that many theater spaces in this area that are affordable and available.
Right.
And although I'm very excited because it means we get a real spring break that Tech, Radford, and MCPS have the same spring break this year, it actually caused a major problem in May with all of the graduations and venues being available, which we ran into in September when we were trying to book them. So we figure out our date, then we have to send that information out like immediately to families and to teachers so we know it's on the calendar. This is what's happening.
Yep.
We have to come up if we're going to have any backdrops or sets. We order those and pick those. I work with Casey Bloss a lot, and she helps us with graphic design for things like signage and props. And we order t-shirts for everyone. We work with New River Engraving to get awards for every single person. We go through and figure out who's been at the studio 5, 10, and 15 years so they can get their special awards. Okay, now it comes down to the clients. They know when the recital is. Now they have to actually confirm that they're going to be there. Instead of just in theory, sure. So that's what we're going through right now, is receiving all those permission slips back. Then they'll pay for their costumes. Then we have picture days. So it's booking with our photographer that lives in LA. He flies in. The videographer, we have to book them. There's just so many things that go into a show that it's not just dancing.
Right. And a large reason of why I asked that is because it seems like you're doing a good job of educating those that are coming through the studio that these are all there. This all has to happen. And I think that's so important in the arts to realize I can make a career out of this, not just doing the performing piece.
Yes.
There are many other ways. I told the students this past week, the majority of them are actors. That's perfectly fine. When you get to New York, it's not likely you are going to get a job that you're immediately paying all of your bills by acting. It's just the unfortunate part of the industry. So I told him, I was like, look at some of the things that are on the behind the scenes, the board operator. I got paid when I was in New York, $750 a week to go in. And when the stage manager told me to hit go, I hit go. And that was my whole job.
That's impressive.
I'm like, there are a lot of things that are there that make all of this possible, and someone has to do it.
Yes.
So I love that. With the students themselves, how do you go about cultivating some of that too? So, at what age do they start approaching you and going, is this possible? Like, what can I do? Do you see that very often? Or is it more of sometimes you see somebody and you go, have you considered this?
I guess it's a little bit of both. So at our studio, kind of two factors where we grow in leadership and mentorship. We have an honor society for dance arts. So basically, like any other honor society, you get points and you have to earn enough points. You have to have a certain GPA, and then you get to be inducted. You can put it on, your resume to apply for college or whatever you need it for. But they get points for performances that they're already in. But part of being part of this honor society is the other aspects. So we'll do simple things just like, okay, can you guys download all of the music and put it in the order on my laptop so it's ready to go? Can you design the graphic for our t-shirt for the spring recital? So Honor Society members are already getting a little bit of an experience with that, and they love it. They love anytime I can ask for a craft project, they are on it. Their ideas just start spiraling. And then you have to say, wait, there's a budget to this and a time constraint.
Yeah.
But I appreciate their creativity. Then the other thing we do is we have student teachers. So I think that's where you really start to actually gain empathy for your own teachers. And everyone that is a student teacher is the best possible student, because you realize what it feels like when you're talking to people and they're staring off into the distance, not paying attention. So they get the experience of actually leading the class. They come up with curriculum themselves and decide how they want to structure a 45-minute class. Are you just going to walk in and hope for the best? No, you're going to block out, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes and then we're going to do this. And then I want to make sure I split up these groups, but I'm going to number the kids so there's no risk of someone accidentally being left out, and managing things like that. And then they end up loving it because, what's not to love? You get to be creative and you get to be in charge.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, not only do they make the better students when they've gone through that process, but then you also have that when you get to the professional world. You can tell the difference when I was sitting in a theater and an actor that had worked in the tech side versus an actor that had not. And it's fully because there's a certain level of ego that gets checked when you understand and have that empathy of what's happening. Not that the others, I'm saying it's ego in a bad way. It's just you don't know. And so you can't be on the lookout for those things.
So I would say I'm an over communicator with our students, but also our families. When it comes to things like scheduling, I just try to be as transparent as possible to try to create that understanding, because everyone has their own stuff going on in their lives, and do we all wish that class was perfectly exactly 30 minutes after school got out, so you have the exact time to have your snack, change your clothes, and then waltz on in? Yes,
sure,
but we have over 200 students. They can't all have class at the exact same time, because then you would be like, how come my class is so full?
All right, do the turn.
And you're like knocking the person next to you. So I think that's one of the things that makes us different from a lot of other, not just dance studios, but places that teach and foster the arts, is I'm super anal retentive about communication and pre-planning, because I think you can just make more informed decisions when you know exactly what's going on and why it's going on. So not just for my kids in the classroom, but also all of their family members. I have been told we have some of the best organization out of all youth activities in the area. That might have been someone just nicely complimenting me to get something they wanted.
But you know what?
I'll take it.
Yeah. So briefly, as we go into this last part of kind of breaking down the misconception of cost and all of those things, the reason I ask this is twofold. One, I saw a story recently that was from the New York Ballet that talked about the fact that they go through $7 million worth of shoes every year, because after every performance, they have to swap their shoes out. And at least in my brain, that immediately goes, $7 million. But also, this is probably the announcement for everybody. Rachel and I are having a little girl. And one of the things I've been saying this whole time is, I can't afford dance. Don't talk about dance. Don't do all those things.
Very
and
offensive.
I know. I know that is just going from some of those things. So really talk about what is the cost and what are those things.
Sure. I would venture to say dance is not different from other activities. When you are choosing to do it once a week, your clearly time commitment and monetary commitment is very low, but it's just like any other activity or sport. If you fall in love with it and decide you want to take that next step, I can tell you not just dance, the second you decide to join that travel team, your price is going to go. Yep. Especially with the economy right now, travel itself is so expensive. Yep. So if we take our youngest dancers are 3, or younger if they're potty trained and don't have separation anxiety. But generally 3 is a safe age at which that's acceptable. They're coming to one 45-minute class a week. The monthly tuition is $50. If you invite enough friends, we do referral credits, so you could totally pay for your tuition by just inviting enough friends into your class.
Great.
We also have a team of parents that I guess we would say we barter with. We have people that work for credit for whatever reason, because of all the things we were just talking about that go into a performance. We need help.
Yeah.
So we're really into bartering and making that work. Okay, so your monthly tuition, $50. They're going to need a leotard or shorts and a t-shirt if that's generally the male dancer dress code, and then shoes. The cool thing when you're that little is you grow out of your shoes so fast that they haven't actually gotten damaged yet. So we have a very robust borrowing and trading system because when you're growing out of it every 4 months, just pass it on to the next person and ask somebody older than you.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So that's kind of your base. It's not that much. If you're going to be in a show, there's tickets to the show. You pay for a costume.
Right.
That's pretty much it. It's fairly minimal.
And it's on par with, like you said, any other activity, any sport, you're going to have these same costs. And when a child finds what they're passionate about, I mean, if you're in the place to do it, you've got to commit it. I mean, even as a professional, I think we can all say, yeah, as a photographer, I could go out and I could buy $100 camera and I could take some good photos with it. It is a lot harder for me to take good photos with it versus me buying a $5,000 camera. It is just as easy to take bad photos with a $5,000 camera, but you have to invest in the things because that's where you're going to see the return.
Right. So we're saying, okay, so this future child has decided that dance is their absolute favorite thing ever, and they just want to do it all day, every day. And you said, oh my goodness, let me get on the fundraising team. So your monthly tuition would increase based on the amount of classes that you're taking. There are discounts built in, of course. We're not just like, wahaha over here trying to like make money off of people. That's not it. But I am really proud. Our fundraising team has put over $25,000 directly into our customers' accounts this year, doing fun stuff. We also have started doing, which I'm sure everyone has seen before, concession stands at we do Virginia Tech athletic events. You actually make pretty good money doing that, and it's really fun. One of the things we've loved as a team is that parents of children at different ages have gotten to know each other and have that bonding experience instead of just, all the 5-year-olds, of course, their parents know each other because they come to class at the same time. But now we have 5-year-olds plus 10-year-olds and 15-year-old, all of their parents coming together.
I think that's a good selling point because I think about it's so hard to make friends as adults. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yes.
You are, especially with kids, you've got so many things that are going on in your life. Time for friends is not usually one of them. So having those opportunities where you can, not to say that every person that you run into at the studio is going to become the new bestie.
Right.
But like, I think that beyond thinking about, hey, my child is involved with this, that's a great way of networking.
Your family becomes involved. And I would say it's, it's not just a dance studio. It's also a soccer team or whatever you're choosing. I mean, any of those, you're traveling out of town together.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, your kids are going to make you go to that pool at the hotel. I can 100% guarantee it.
I know. In the middle of the winter too, which is crazy.
Yes.
We had a hotel last year when I was in Pennsylvania that had a saltwater pool, and it's the middle of January, and at 7 a.m. when it opens, you could hear kids out there.
I have been known to do some cannonballs just to entertain the kiddos at the hotel. But to me, I mean, that's the reason I stayed in Blacksburg when I graduated from college. I had already been working at the studio for almost 5 years. And I made friendships with these families. They really nurtured who I was as a person and helped me grow in my confidence and became my Blacksburg family. So it wouldn't just be, a studio sanctioned event. We also do things where we'll be like, hey, did you guys hear about blank? And a group will just go and participate, and there's built-in people that you already know, and that the children are comfortable together. That the parents have the same values as you because you're choosing to invest in the same activity for your kid. So I just think it's invaluable, that community aspect of it.
Yeah. So before we see you next time, first let's talk about where everybody can find DanceTech and all of those things.
Sure. We're at 1101 North Main Street in Blacksburg. It's a big green building up on the hill across from the YMCA thrift store, if that is good enough directions.
Yeah, I think so. Facebook, all those things.
We are on Facebook and Instagram as DanceTech Rocks. I think TikTok exists. I honestly have no idea. We're Dance Talk Rocks. We have a YouTube, Dance Tech Rocks. I don't know why I'm into rocking. Rock. It reminds me of a
keep the branding together.
Yes,
you know,
a yearbook, like you rock, don't ever change, or something like that. Our website, dance-tech.com. Our phone number is easy to remember, 540-961-6666. And it's a cell, so you can call or text, which people have been loving the texting because it's just so much easier.
Before we talk to you next, so next time when we're talking, it's going to be Blacksburg Ballet. Is there anything you want me to be thinking about ahead of time?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so last time we talked about DanceTech, you were like, what are you going to commit to over the next blah, blah, blah? And I said that I was going to work on being a better mentor and like bringing people into things. I think that's going pretty well, honestly. Been sending some people and bringing them with me to like leadership conferences and things like that. For Blacksburg Ballet, I just still want to build our year around more than the Nutcracker, and do more of those outreach things. I don't know. February and March is kind of a dreary time of year. We could use a little excitement.
That's totally fair. And on my side, what I'm going to ask of you for that episode is I want to learn a little bit more about the history of ballet.
Oh,
and
gosh.
because something this past week that I was hearing is how many of the terms in ballet are French, but how much of the history is ingrained in Russia.
Yes.
And so I'd love to hear some of that from you and just give that kind of education aspect.
And Italy. And it was originally for men.
See?
Boom.
This is what we're going to talk about on that episode, which will come out in
many months from now.
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Paige, for joining us today. In the meantime, everyone, make sure you like, subscribe, all of those things. We are on YouTube, Spotify. You can also listen on our website, montgomerycc.org. Make sure you go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.